All right, I think we are live. All right. Welcome to the Advisory Finance Committee meeting. Pursuant to Chapter 2, the Acts of 2025, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access the meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at Memorial Hall inside Town Hall at 34 West Main Street, and it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the Zoom link in the posted agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely, as previously noted. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28 and Charter Channel 192 or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/westboroughTV. This meeting will be recorded and live streamed by Westborough TV.
Yay.
Yay! Okay. All right. I thought we had someone for public comment. Apparently not.
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, Allison, you're already up.
Thank you. Slide here. Hopefully my technology works. So I'm really here, you're kind of my first big audience. I think Terry was among my first small audience to talk a little bit about why Westborough needs a special education reserve account. You'll notice it's a warrant article, Article 5, and it's something that we had discussed a little bit last year, decided not to put on the warrant, and I really think it's an excellent time to do it now. And I'll talk a little bit about what it is and why I think we need it. So. First of all, I think it's just important to step back and think about the challenges of special education budgeting. It is the most volatile part of our budget on the school budget side. The costs fluctuate very dramatically. For some of our students, they can be educated with relatively kind of similar cost to a regular per pupil cost, but some of our students need more. They may need a one-on-one aid. They might need very specialized services in the district. And in some cases, we aren't able to serve the student within the district. We need to find an outside placement for the student, either through a collaborative special education school or a private school, and those costs can be extremely high. As noted, the collaboratives are running at around $70,000 per student per year for tuition, and if you go to a residential private placement, that can be upwards of $250,000 per year per student. That does not include transportation, and it also doesn't include some other additional services like speech and language services, vision and mobility and things like that. Those get charged extra. So it's a big kind of swing in the budget potentially. And if you recall, back in 2022, we had a situation where the school department came to town meeting in the fall, the special town meeting, to actually put a warrant article out to deal with the shortfall having to do exactly with this situation with special education. I'll talk about that in more detail in a little bit. I think without a safety net, school districts tend to over budget. They tend to budget with minimal risk involved. So we try and be as conservative as possible so we don't get caught short. And actually having a special education reserve account allows us to budget, assume a little more risk factor, and actually kind of keep our costs down on a year-to-year basis. You can't really talk about special education without talking about Circuit Breaker, and Circuit Breaker is a program that's really helped Westborough and many school districts throughout the state to manage the high cost of special education funding. It's essentially a state-created program that establishes a threshold, and anything that the district pays above and beyond that threshold per pupil is partially reimbursed. Right now that reimbursement rate is about 75% for tuitions. And it's important to note that while this is wonderful, the payment comes in arrears, so we have to put the money out up front and then we get it back the next year. And the funding levels can, in fact, vary. We actually saw we've seen pretty stable funding over the last 4 or 5 years, but prior to that, there was some up and down in the reimbursement rate, and that kind of does a number. If you're counting on 75% back and all of a sudden you get 49%, that can be a big chunk of change here. Here's a little bit how it works. So a couple years ago, that threshold amount was set at just under $50,000. So, and that was sort of assumed that districts are going to have to take care of that part by themselves. So that's, the state says that cannot be eligible for circuit breaker reimbursement. Anything above that is eligible for partial reimbursement. So if a student's total educational cost was $130,000, that creates an $80,000 pot of eligible funding that gets submitted through a kind of labor-intensive process, and there's a wonderful woman who works for the district who does this work for us. She kind of goes through line by line and makes sure all the kind of paperwork is done right, and then we get back from the state, if everything goes right, 75% of that, so $60,000. So our total cost to the district is that initial threshold cost plus whatever the reimbursement doesn't cover. So it's a little bit about how it works. Hopefully my math is right up there. So what happened in Westborough a few years ago is there was an unexpected increase in special education service needs, out-of-district service needs, and it created this immediate financial problem. And it was a pretty good size problem. It was about $625,000 of unanticipated tuition cost. And within the context of the overall budget, that's a good sized portion of the budget. So that required the school district to come to town meeting to advocate for a warrant article at that point. Thankfully it passed, but when you have to raise and appropriate at that point in the year, it means that it's an unanticipated sort of tax hit for the community. So it's not great planning. We're just sort of coming because there's an emergency. So the reserve fund works like this. It's this legally authorized fund, and it's only for special education unanticipated costs. So we can't dip into it for anything else. It's a capped fund, so it can never go above more than 2% of the annual net spending, which would be probably an unnecessarily large reserve account, to be honest. And the funds can only be accessed by a vote of the school committee and the select board. So there's controls in place. It must be reported, and actually money can only be added to the fund through vote at town meeting. So, all in all, it kind of creates this nice financial cushion in case we have an unexpected change. It sort of smooths out the tax rates, so we're not kind of coming back to raise and appropriate at odd times. It helps us keep our budget more in line with the true cost of what we believe is going to happen without this sort of hyper conservative approach where we sort of try and anticipate any possible issue that could come up. And then I would say a number of districts have this. This is a pretty common phenomenon in other places in the Commonwealth. Hopkinton has a special education reserve account. Westwood has one. Medfield has one. There are a lot of districts around that I think are districts that I think take a similar approach to education, and also towns that take a kind of similarly careful approach to their financing. Sources can really range. You're not limited to any particular source for funding the account. So some districts have started, and towns have looked at Medicaid reimbursement. So the district engages in requests for Medicaid reimbursement because we are providers for some of those services to students. So counseling, some of the nursing provision we do, some of our speech and language services, those are reimbursable. Those funds come in and they come to the town. So some towns and districts have made arrangements where a portion of that goes into the special education reserve or is earmarked for that. Sometimes there are dedicated grants for special education. If we have one of those and we don't kind of allot all of it, some of those grants will allow rollover into a reserve account. If there's a budget surplus, in the unlikely event that happens, that can roll into special education reserve. And also just honestly planning. We've talked about this internally, and I think we're proposing an initial sort of deposit in the account and then a kind of small addition to the account over the arc of 10 years or so to try and build it up until it hits a level where it could really handle a big situation like we had in 2022. So I would propose getting it to about $1 million or so, just to make sure we're covered in the case of a very high cost or a couple of very high cost tuitions that come at us unexpectedly. And, we kind of talked about this already, but there's a lot of stability in terms of how the funding is managed. It's got a lot of oversight involved, and there's mandatory state reporting requirements as well. So, it's a great solution. It helps us budget appropriately. It protects taxpayers. I think it's a really smart way to go. And, while circuit breaker is helpful to us, the way it flows into the district doesn't help us do good planning. So this is something that would be always in the background as a safety net. I do want to clarify too, it's not a budgeting tool. So it's something that you build and you keep in the background, but you don't sort of budget with the reserve account in mind. It really is for unanticipated costs, not anticipated costs. So that's an important distinction. And that is that's my pitch. So.
Questions? Go ahead.
Sure. I remember 2022. I don't remember other examples, so
Yeah.
I think to support this discussion, I think it would be helpful to have what were the surpluses and the shortages of the past 5-10 years or something like that, because one thing 3 years ago isn't that compelling to stash $1 million in a fund somewhere, because you'd have to. They made the argument that we would budget more close to the level, but I think some numbers around that would be beneficial to the argument.
Yeah, I can try to do that.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges of that is it is such a volatile and unpredictable thing.
No, I
I will say one thing that's driving my interest in this is the uptick in costs.
Yeah.
So the scale that we're talking
It's
about
changing.
it's getting really big, especially with transportation costs. So whereas a few years ago this was a sort of nice idea, now it's feeling more and more necessary. Those out-of-district rates went up by close to 15% 3 years ago, another 5% 2 years ago, another 3.5% last year. So they're just escalating at a rate that makes the affordability of trying to manage that, if it's a sudden change within the existing operating budget, almost untenable. I mean,
A student being added is a bigger number now than it was a few years ago. So
Absolutely. It's a kind of different
a big
case.
difference.
Yeah, it really has grown in a way that's a lot. There is a part of circuit breaker that reimburses for transportation as well, but that's reimbursed at a much lower rate, and that's another area where we've seen massive cost escalation is in out-of-district transportation. My
impression of the circuit breaker has been that in the 4 years I've been here is some years we have now less students,
Yes.
and we get a big number from the year before,
Right.
and that has helped some budgets.
Yes.
And then some years we have a big number and we get a smaller number from the year before. And like you said, it's one of the yo-yo parts
Yes.
of that method that they've chosen to pay for it.
There's a lot of state advocacy around kind of continuing to raise the threshold and also to lower the threshold for circuit breaker and to raise the percentage reimbursement and some other things that we're trying to do through the State Superintendents Association. I'd say one success was there was the creation of that kind of threshold rate that was flattened and then allowed to increase with inflation. So that's a plus. And the fact that the last 4 to 5 years it's been 75% pretty predictably, that's a plus. So those are things that feel better. But I will say the trying to budget based on last year's receipts is which honestly have nothing to do with this year's students.
Yeah.
So it's a mismatch.
Yeah, I agree.
So Allison, you and I spoke earlier in the
Yes.
week. So for the town warrant, it's to set up the reserve, but
It
not
is.
to populate with any dollars at this point. That would be something that would be considered in the spring, correct?
Right now, the draft of the warrant includes an initial investment.
150,000, yeah.
Of $150,000. And that, that number was just, our throwing something out there based on the fact that there is a gap between what was budgeted on the town side for Chapter 70 money versus what came in from the state. So we got about $380,000 more in Chapter 70 funding than was budgeted. I think that creates an opportunity to at least put seed money in place. So we're sort of finalizing whether we want to go forward with asking for money this fall or just creating the account this fall and then coming back to ask in the spring. I think we'll be deciding within the next day or two. So
Okay.
there's some arguments on either side to figure out.
As currently written, it says 150,000 from
150,000.
free cash.
Yes,
So that's,
it does. Yeah.
Right. But I knew that they were kind of going back
Yeah.
and forth, so it's.
But it hasn't been
hasn't
decided yet.
Decided,
Yes.
but it would be earmarked anyways for that. So the thing I like about it is that it smooths
Yes.
everything, and that's really a better practice as
Right.
opposed to like dealing with these huge volatilities from one year to the other. And then if there is a surplus, you can, earmark it exactly to this reserve fund, so it doesn't get lost
Right.
in any of the numbers as well.
Right.
Yeah, but a point would be, it's
Yeah.
for unexpected expenses, so this will not have any smoothing effect on the budget, because if
Yeah.
you know there are going to be more students next year when you're doing your budget, then you will
We'll budget
higher.
accordingly, right,
And
yeah.
if you know there might be less, you might.
Yeah,
So this really is for the kids move in,
Right.
But in
two kids move
theory-
out, 6 kids moves in or something, but the number goes up.
But in theory, you might budget for, we think we have 10 students, what if it's 12? We better budget for 12. And this would allow you to budget for 10 because if, oops, there's 12.
If
You
we
have-
actually do that.
I
Yeah.
think that's what we were talking about, right?
Right, but I think that's the intention, right?
Right.
Is that we, in my theoretical 10 versus 12, you could budget
Right.
for the 10 you know you're going to have or reasonably anticipate.
Right, right. I think it kind of comes down to that reasonable anticipation. So we have a really great team, leadership team. They sort of track and keep tabs on how our students are doing. And they're very aware of students where there might be this need, most of the time, not always, but often very aware of students where there might be this need at some point. And so when it's anticipated that this could be a potential switch, we budget for that. Now, that's a projection, and I think how much we project and how conservatively versus how much risk we take on in that projection, that's a piece of the smoothing effect, certainly. And that's a helpful tool, to be honest. If a student seems to be doing okay, but we're a little worried, and there's a need to keep the budget numbers down, we might swing in one direction.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I'm talking about.
If I may ask a question, if you guys can hear me, can you hear me? This is
Yes.
Saroja speaking. Yeah, so I wanted to just make sure that I understand correctly. We have sort of state-funded monies, but in order to support predictability, in order to support, an additional bucket to support potentially variable needs of our special needs students, we want to have this additional buffer, and we want to bring it before the town for their approval, correct? And we don't yet know, we're not talking about numbers in terms of what the size of that bucket would be, correct? Is that a fair understanding?
I think that's fair. As written, the current draft article suggests $150,000 as a start to establish the
Okay.
budget. The reserve account can be established with no funding. If that seems prudent, we will go that direction. Our initial thoughts in drafting that had to do with this gap between Chapter 70 budget versus the Chapter 70 allocation. And given that there's funding that we did not anticipate, it seemed like a good time to start saving it for a rainy day. And that's kind of what it is.
I have one more question, which is this. Has it been contemplated whether, if funds do run out, let's say one particular year, you have the, potential 150K, it's approved. Has there been any thought given to what happens when the reserve account is utilized to its fullest extent? It's just something that I might suggest, when we're bringing it up before the town. Are there any mechanics considered for that? What happens then?
Of course. Yes, thank you. And I think what I've seen take place in other communities is that whatever mechanism has been used to sort of feed that account in the past, we would kind of continue and build it back up over time. So it's kind of like your savings account in case something terrible happens to your roof at home, and you build it up and use it, and then it's gone for a while, and build it back up. So I think it feels intuitive, I think, to most folks in that sense, which is nice.
It's a tool that's used very much in business, right? Where you're trying to, you're going to have some volatility, so you're trying to plan for that.
Right.
So you're trying to do a smoothing effect, and also by building it up, it builds up the rainy day. So it's a matter of, if we get approval to fund it, then how much do you want to incrementally grow it? And that's a question for later on, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that, and I think there are different ways of thinking about it. I try and sort of grow it to a level where it could cover, kind of one or two, particularly dramatic payments that we had to make that we weren't expecting, because that's probably appropriate of it for a town this size. We can look at some past data to sort of see what we're seeing in terms of change in population over time, and that might help us. But really, these things can be very, very random and very unexpected. So,
question. So I think there are a couple of things that I wanted to check in about this, because you have mentioned, which is great, that this fund is absolutely going to be used only for the purpose of the special costs. I think the special needs costs. So the question I had was that the special education fund, when you get the areas, I think one thing I did not hear, so I just want to confirm, is that when we get the areas back from the state, is there a policy that we have that those necessarily have to get back into the special reserve fund, or it could be used for other purposes as well, like unexpected costs? So is there any such policy as well?
Oh, interesting. So the circuit breaker funding that we get back from the state, it's essentially reimbursement. So once it's back with us, it's not necessarily tagged to anything in particular. So it is a fund, but we have this town and in the public schools, that reimbursement is already factored into our budgeting process. So we count on it coming back to us in order to budget for next year's special education. And we do our best math to figure out what it's going to look like, and then we do a lot of hoping that the state funding comes through.
Mm-hmm. And just to follow up on that as well, that now that since circuit breaker is already part of the disclosures, the financial disclosures that we get as part of the annual budgets, the other question I had was that now does this mean this would be part of this could be, I'm recommending, if this could be part of reporting as well, that out of that circuit breaker, how much of those areas have really come up from this, special reserve, for the special reserve funding, or how much has gone in versus gone out, if it could come as part of the financial reporting as well.
Sure. I think we do that, but if we're not, that should be in there in terms of the line items that come through for circuit breaker. So it's dispersed, I think, a couple times a year. I want to say quarterly, we get these partial reimbursements from the state, and then we basically turn around and use those to pay existing tuitions for students. So it's a pretty much an in and out, but I can get those financials.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a quick
Sure,
question?
absolutely.
So Allison, it makes perfect sense. The question is about the mechanics. So as it's written today, we are funding 150,000 for this fund. It may change, but this is how it's written. And if I'm not, if I didn't overhear, you were planning to increase that fund to about $1 million.
Yes, I think
What
over
the-
time, like
over
10
time.
years or,
What's the mechanism to increase that to $1 million? Is it going to go for the time vote, or is it going to be at the
That would be a
discretion?
town meeting. So that is a town, you must have a town meeting vote to put money in it every single time. So that is tightly controlled, and I think that's important. There are other funds that the town does chip into on a pretty annual basis. This would sort of join that set, and we'd try to set a dollar amount that felt reasonable, so that it's not so it's something that you could scale back at any given year. But our hope would be to sort of set a plan and build it over time, and following that schedule, and then stop, and wait till we needed to do it again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If it got used, let's say we hit a 2022 and we use up most our reserve fund, then we might the next year want to build it up more than if we had a year where we didn't use anything.
Exactly. No, I hear
It could
that.
be by,
Yeah. I think-
sorry, Ann.
No trouble. So I guess building off of Adam's, because I have a bevy of other questions, but building off of Adam's point, I think that you had a slide that actually indicated there's a number of different potential funding mechanisms.
Yes.
Most of which, to my untrained eye, looked like they had people behind them.
Yes.
Meaning, like, somebody would have to be hired or somebody would have to add to their existing job to do that. So, like, grant writing was one of them. Yeah, grants, Medicaid reimbursements. So, are there existing facilities? I don't know the right way to think of it. Is there existing processes
Kind of
within this
capacity?
town
Yeah.
that you could leverage to support some of those funding mechanisms, or would it be brand new?
So it's a great question. I'd say in terms of Medicaid reimbursements, we are already doing that work. And the question is, like, are there things we could do to increase those reimbursements? We've started doing that over the last several years. And I think I have some sense from talking to our special education leadership that we do have room to kind of grow our reimbursement capacity. It is paperwork, it is somewhat labor intensive, so we're kind of grappling with that right now. How do we do that and do it well? There's sort of the actual submission side, which kind of goes through the district office, but part of the impact of that is on the actual billing side has to go through our providers. So folks who I think would much prefer to spend most of their time doing direct service with kids now need to spend a little bit of their time actually sort of documenting what they're doing so that it's billable.
Okay.
So that's a bit of a
okay.
rub. So that's an interesting challenge, and we've been working with
Yep.
those folks to try and help develop systems to streamline it so it's not burdensome for them, or provide them some sort of level of support. Grants, our special education department, our assistant superintendent's office, our ELL office all do a fair amount of federal and state grant writing already. So that's kind of baked into the fabric of what we do. For this, it would just be identifying if there are some of those grants that allow for any unexpected funding that we don't need to expend out of the grant to roll over into reserve, if that's possible. So for example, if we had grant funding that provided us the opportunity to hire support staff for special education, maybe the grant funding came in and we didn't need to hire as many staff in that given year, we may be able to reallocate that funding and give it back to help it support funding through the town. So those are the kind of things that we'd be really looking to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
mean, and different communities do it differently. My prior district, they actually used, they had a hotel and meals tax in town, and they use that to partially feed this account in that town. So,
Thank you.
okay.
So, I have a couple of other questions.
Sure.
People,
Go.
please feel free to jump in. So I'm not going to ask for the definition, but is there some solid, well-defined guidelines of what would qualify as an unanticipated expense that would inform when this would be tipped into?
That's a great question. I'd say, I don't, I need to find out more about that. I think typically it would be an unbudgeted expense. So we have a pretty good handle on what the cost is of our special education services going from one year to the next,
Yep.
in some sense, right? We know what we planned for. And so this is something that we did not plan for, and that could happen one of a number of ways. One is kind of most typically it's a student moves into the district with an array of needs that we just weren't planning on because we didn't know they were going to move here. Another might be that something happens with a student or a family that necessitates something like a new service for that student that we didn't anticipate. Those are the two cases that I can think make the most sense. Yeah.
So I think one of the concerns that I love the idea. So I'm supporting this, and I just want to make sure it's framed up properly, proper disclosures and all
Of
that
course.
sort of thing. So one of the concerns that I would have would be that this idea about unexpected expenses and smoothing the budgeting over year, that's kind of a red herring to me, because every year the definition you gave of these expenses is totally accurate.
Yeah.
Every year there's there's more than expected, there's fewer than expected.
Right.
So I think that there are occasional instances like the $650,000 that really stand out as a reason to have to deal with this.
Right.
But in the existing budget, with no changes whatsoever, you are dealing with this chaos, and the money comes from somewhere.
Right.
It's a black box to those of us here, but it's being dealt with. So I guess the concern I would have would be that every year would be a need to look at this special budget that we're trying to build up. Even though historically your predecessor, their predecessor dealt with this tumult
Right.
otherwise. And
Right.
we
You're
won't
talking
really
about the
build it up.
temptation to use it, even if it's not an
Temptation to use it, but I mean,
emergency.
we won't be building a reserve if we dip into it every year and we're just
Exactly.
replenishing and then having to build above it.
Right.
That's a surplus tax is what it comes down to. So
I think that's
I'm curious.
that's astute, and I think that's a very good reason that it has these controls in terms of both select board and school committee votes. And honestly, I think for me that sort of smoothing effect is that's one piece. The kind of more important effect at the end of the day is that what happens if we have an unanticipated cost that's very significant and real, like $625,000, and we go to town meeting and town meeting doesn't fund it. So that's a very concerning scenario for us, because we have to pay for that. We don't have the option to not do that. So that money has to come out of the rest of our operating budget. And that's a really worrisome scenario for me. So part of it is that safety net too.
Yep.
And probably the lion's share is that safety net. But I do hear your point. We don't want to fail to be anticipatory in our budgeting process and then thinking we can always dip into this. That's not the purpose. The purpose is really, truly an emergency of some sort. So unanticipated costs.
Yeah, and I think that
I have a question.
point that you make is the point that concerns me most, is
Yes.
that this will become a smoothing tool and will be used every year. So
Right.
we're not just paying for the budget, we're also having to pay to cover unexpected, plus potentially building and enhancing. So if this is really, no, not if it is, I trust you are going to make it that,
Yes.
but it will not be that sort of thing if you're using it every year just for other the expenses perspective.
Well, its efficacy
I do
vanishes if we spend it down
Yeah.
to the point where it can't manage a big hit. So it really is designed for a big hit, and I think that's important.
Thank you.
It's circuit
Allison,
breaker
I have a
breaker.
question.
Sure.
Yeah. So are there regulatory restrictions around trying to grow the existing reserve funds by investment of some kind of investment, approach? I'm curious. So that not only is the expenditure itself predictable and there is a steady supply of funds, but perhaps even the growth can be smoothed through some investment approach. But again, given that it is a reserve account within the purview of the town and the school, are there restrictions on investment? And is that a angle that could be also contemplated to build out this reserve?
That's an interesting question that I do not know the answer to at all, but I'd have to do some research. So to what
Okay.
extent, it's essentially the town's fund, once it's created, to what extent the town can invest its reserve accounts in order to grow them. I don't know the
To
answer to
grow
that, but
it.
I can certainly look into
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Yep.
Also, when you depict this, for me, it's really trying to eliminate the volatility of the expenses hitting the town in any one cycle. It's not, it's great for budgeting, but that's not really the true purpose for budgeting. It's really to try to be planful and not to, I think, force the town to have to grapple with like a major expense that
Right.
hits, and now we have to go for town approval for something that was unplanned for.
Right,
So
right.
it's really, like you said, it's a balance sheet, it's almost like a balance sheet item you're setting up as a reserve
Yes.
to try to, prevent rainy day major occurrences, just like, in this case, it's probably one of your most volatile areas.
Yes.
So it makes sense to try to set up some sort of fund to try to prevent that from happening, so you don't have that kind of up and down.
Yeah, I believe so. And the other thing I'd say is that it also, prevents us from having to go to town meeting on behalf of maybe one or two children's
Right.
education, which feels very like that's a scary thing. I think for those kids and families to sort of know that this is a whole conversation. Obviously, it's all confidential, but if it doesn't pass, how does that feel? What does that mean for the rest of the programming in town? I think anytime we have a financial situation that sort of pits the interests of a child with extraordinary needs against others, I think that's a terrible setup. So, sort of from an ethical standpoint.
And the timing of town meetings too. 'Cause
Yes.
it happens in third week of March or so, and it happens in the fall.
Right.
And we've had special ones, but this condition, you'd like to avoid that expense too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, a special meeting is costly on
Yeah.
its own, and
Yeah.
so that should be a consideration.
as well. Yeah.
And we certainly have other reserve funds for
We do.
water, sewer, our fund, which is just general purpose, the AFC fund. Is it statutorily the state law that allows this, that it's select board and school committee?
It is. I believe so. It's the town sort of governing body
Yeah.
and the school committee. So whatever that happens to be.
Oh, okay.
So,
'Cause
if
it
you
could
don't have a
be-
select board, it might be.
It could be a mayor
It could be
and
a
town
mayor or
council or
town
something if
council,
you have
yeah.
a city or something.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
So how do we proceed?
So we
Ask the new.
will thank Allison for her time.
Well,
And
well,
thank
Thank you,
there's another
Allison and
article.
Anita.
Oh,
Yeah, there is.
sorry.
Just
Article
a
four.
little background on the,
Yep.
I think it's almost self-obvious, but the Norfolk agricultural.
Interesting. I don't know as much about this
Yeah,
because
okay.
technically this is not our article.
Oh.
This is sort of similar to Sept Valley.
Yeah.
When there are students who are seeking kind of a either agricultural or career and technical educational opportunities, that those are funded through the town through a separate budget. They're not part of the Westborough Schools budget. It's unusual because there aren't as many students who opt for the agricultural school option. And there's one, the Norfolk Aggie, which is wonderful. I used to live down kind of closer there. It's a sort of fantastic place. So essentially the article is brought forward, and the reason for the timing of the article is that the students' admission was after town meeting last spring, so there wasn't an opportunity to even budget for this. It was kind of an unanticipated thing that has come forward, kind of came out of the woodwork at us, and so we let the town side know.
So are you saying that the student goes again next year where we could budget for it? Would it be like Sept where there's another line in the budget somewhere that says Norfolk,
Yes.
whatever, agricultural school?
For the
That wouldn't be separate from, and so that this money's really just going directly there?
just dedicated to there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that, when it's predictable, then you could have it as a separate line.
So is this being promoted by you, or
Not. I mean, I
Yeah,
know a little
promoted,
bit about
sponsored.
it.
not promoted, but sponsored, I guess?
It is not. It's
brought
not really
forward.
sponsored by the schools. It's really. It's not our budget. So we're
Oh.
listed there. I had talked with Christy
Yeah.
about that. It's a little
It's an
misleading to have
interesting
us
one,
listed.
because Sept usually comes and
Yeah.
answers their own
Yeah,
questions.
that's true.
So, I mean, in essence, if this was a regular thing, maybe they would come. But
Maybe. We're
it's a
pretty
very
far
small
out,
program.
so-
It's one student
Right,
and it's
yes.
far away.
Yeah,
Right.
think it's
So I think
unlikely.
it would be a reasonable assumption, though, if we had dozens of students there, similar to
Yeah.
Assabet, they would come, they would present, they would
Exactly.
talk about the
Right.
program. Because it's one student, it's just sort of in limbo and stuck
Yeah.
down here, and we called it schools because it's a school.
It's educational. It is educational.
Yes, it's
It is a
educational.
school.
It is a school.
It's
It
one
doesn't have
less.
to be our school. but
It's
it
one
is a
less
school.
student you have in your class.
So can I ask, relative to that, what is the town policy? You know, we fund, you know, students at Assabet and at Westborough. How does all of a sudden a funding for Norfolk for an agricultural program be funded by the town? I don't follow that. Well, and I don't know
I
what the
think the
policy
article
is.
is in a, like I said, I wasn't thinking about talking about this because it's not ours,
Yeah.
but I will do a little brushing up because someone needs to talk about it at some
Yeah.
point. So
Thank you.
we are happy to help out because it
But
is a
I
child
guess
living in
the
town.
bigger question is, can students decide to go to
Wherever.
Amherst, you know, this
Yeah.
kind of school or that school? We don't really participate in school choice per
No,
se.
no, this is a very specific, there's
Yeah.
a legal reason behind this one. It has to
Yeah.
do with the
Agriculture.
agriculture school. And there aren't that many, and we don't have that many students who go. But it's kind
It's
of a.
illegal? Really?
But
I would
we as
be
a
curious
town-
to know if we have other schools, right? 'Cause, again, we're all familiar with Assabet. We have pretty good participation.
Right.
This one I didn't know. It would be interesting to see next year, could some other school nobody had ever heard of show up?
Right.
I believe, now I'm
No
going
one
to have to
ever
check
heard.
into this, but the fact that we
Okay.
have membership at Assabet is a factor too. So we do
Yeah.
have a kind of relationship with
Right.
that school, and it does provide this certain array of services. It doesn't have agricultural,
Yep.
things, and so it's kind of about this sort of support at the state level for students who have this very particular interest, making sure that we find that the communities are investing in finding schools for them. So.
And I think this is one of those cases where the school will get paid, whether it's through this article or if this article is voted down, they still get paid because we have an obligation to pay for educating the students. It's just, are we accounting for it in the funding properly? Is that right? That's true of Assabet. If we voted down the Assabet money, the town would still owe them. It just wouldn't come out of the Assabet line. They'd have to come up with the money somewhere else,
I
I
guess.
believe.
I don't know.
Is that true though? Because they can't pay the expense out of a different line because that's not how we vote. I would be curious to know what.
Right.
I will first say, I'm all in favor of voting yes on
Yeah.
this. So I'm going to clarify that
It's
before
more
I
of a
sound
curiosity than
like. It is more of a
yeah.
curiosity. What happens if we voted no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we should vote yes,
Thank you.
providing this student an opportunity to attend a school that meets their is great. I'm just curious from like mechanics. What happens if we vote no? Because you're right. We're like legally obligated to pay our bills.
Well, I'm kind of on the fence on this one. Like, what if a kid wanted to go do coal mining in West Virginia?
That's
Do we-
not
I don't think it's.
That's
I don't
not
think
an
it's.
option.
I think I think it's very specific, and I'll do a little more research. When we will partner with the town on sort of figuring out how to present the information clearly, so people
Yeah.
know what it's about. But
think
honestly,
it-
I haven't
I
spent
think
a lot
as
of
you
time on
s-
it because it's not our school district. So
Right, as you said, if you want to take any of the things that Assabet offers, you would have to go to Assabet. You don't have a choice of going to the other ones.
Keith,
Right.
Keith Tech or something.
Right.
So this is probably an
But that's an-
agricultural option which doesn't exist at Assabet. And maybe there's a few other subjects, I don't know.
I feel bad for a lot of kids who end up going to Assabet and want to go for a special skill, and then they don't get into that program. So I'm kind of mixed, so in that, we should be providing, if they want to become a plumber, they should be able to be a plumber and not go into sheet metal. But, that's a reality of what's been happening with Assabet too. So, I don't know, I'm just like, I'm looking at going, okay, so if you want to go to an agricultural school, but maybe you can do some, does it really have to be an agricultural school?
my sense is
And does
that
it open a
the-
Pandora's box? I don't know.
sort of statewide,
I
that
don't think it
phenomenon
opens
is
anything.
happening where the career and technical schools are having a hard time meeting demand.
They
just,
are.
just everywhere. But I will say that the Department of Ed is working to try and find ways to sort of grapple with that problem. First of all, looking at their admissions policies, but secondly, really encouraging like local high schools to start to develop other types of programming that meet that need. So, that's something we've started talking about here. What are ways we can kind of build out programming? It wouldn't be necessarily what Assabet has. It would be sort of other types of kind of internships and technical kind of skill development work. And can we have some of that just happens right here and meet some of the unmet demand? So that's a conversation we're starting to have.
Nice. Yeah, excellent.
Once you become an expert on non-school department schools, you can also work on things like insurance, if you don't mind. We have major questions about insurance.
That is
No,
definitely
I'm
not
just
my
kidding.
wheelhouse. But I appreciate that you've given me
Thank
the
you.
grace of at least a year to start to figure out this school system. Maybe take a little longer before I figure out the rest of them.
Just wait till you find out what we have to ask next year.
I know. It'd be very exciting.
Insurance.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you
so
all
much.
so
Very
much. I
much.
really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you.
Is it next week already? Is it the weekend?
No,
Week
I think it's the week after.
Week after.
Give us our week, Alice.
Yeah, it's a week and a half from now. roughly. So the
Okay.
answer to your question is, generally, after someone spoke like this, we could vote now. I think there's enough stuff to digest here that I think the general sense of the committee would be, well, let's think about it and get a chance to digest this stuff a little more. And other ones we could vote. So it's up to us to decide, mainly through the chair's leadership, to decide, do we want to vote this tonight or not, and et cetera.
Yeah.
Because that's what you were asking, I think, what
Yeah, well,
happens
yeah,
next.
and at what point you vote. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so what we'll do next is, I think we'll walk through sort of what's on the warrant, figure out where we have questions, who we want to invite in, and what articles we think we might want to vote. Again,
And with this particular article, we probably want to wait till the amount is settled
Correct.
before we
Yeah.
bother
Right.
to vote.
Yeah,
Because
so I think
we
we'll
probably
wait.
re-voted if it was a different amount or different source, so.
Yep.
But I think we've learned a lot about it.
Great.
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Yeah,
thanks, ladies.
yeah, thank you
Good
guys.
evening.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You know, you put the spreadsheet out, I thought maybe you want to fill it out.
Well, the reality of annual town meeting is we have so many more things to vote that generally we do feel that it's a good idea to get started earlier.
Yeah.
Right now, we're at, 14 articles. There's no budgets. With annual town meeting, you have 30-something articles and all those budgets to go through. So we tend, and some of them that you can vote are just kind of very straightforward. You know your answer already. So we do tend to push it a little more in the spring. And here, I think we can afford, because you could vote this whole thing in one night if you had to, because we do that many in annual town.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
Okay.
some of them are as simple as, we recommend the town accept the vote of the electorate.
Right.
So,
Or previous year's bills.
I
what
love
are you
it
gonna
when we
vote
vote on,
against
should we pay $200 of
Yeah.
last year's bills?
Yeah, which we have to. So those
Tough
ones you can do
call.
right away, and you just get them out of the way, and they're done, so.
Yep.
there's
So may I ask the
checkbox.
chair, have we heard how well baked we believe that the warrant is? I mean, I don't know how much you were being told there may still be stuff in play.
So I have not heard that there are any other, let me look at the last email I
You
got.
told us about the pool coming, and it is in
Yep.
version 3, so that
Yeah,
was a
$2,000.
good prediction.
so I think all of the things that Christie had warned us might be coming are in here in
At least
some
as
version.
straw, they don't have information, but.
Yeah.
are there
It's
any
only
citizens
V3.
petitions that we know about?
No, not yet, but I think those require 100 or 50 or 100
I didn't think
signatures.
we'd voted that yet.
No, this is a special fall town meeting. It's not annual town meeting.
Oh,
The threshold for
Only
this one
annual
is
town
higher.
meeting is 10.
got you. Okay.
So that's pretty good evidence
Yeah.
that it reduces the number.
So there might, we've
those usually
heard
come in
that
at the
there's at
last
least
minute.
one citizen who had intended to, again, the threshold is higher for this meeting than spring, so we'll see if they end up. But at this point, I just checked and there was no note of anything else we're expecting at this point, so.
Thank you.
So I think some of the costs are yet to come, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
looking at the swimming pool, so.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
can vote on them.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
So what I was thinking is, so take a first pass through and figure out if there are any that we feel we're comfortable to vote, or flag any where we know we want someone to come in and present, and then we can figure out from there sort of what the rest of our cycle is gonna look like, just based on what we know now.
Okay.
I mean, from what was presented today, I'm comfortable voting on the special reserve. But then the other one kind of caught me by surprise. Like, it's not about the amount; it's more about like, is that possible? And 47,000 for a single student enrolling elsewhere. I think I need to figure out more information on that. So definitely, for me, that's like I need to go back.
But I have a sense that the 150 is still, maybe it's it's a heavy marker, but it's not a perfect permanent marker yet.
Correct, she had
Right,
said they're
okay.
still looking at that,
Right.
so, okay. So Article 1 is prior year's bills, there's nothing yet, so that's a pass for now.
Yep.
2 is the revolving fund for senior transportation program. It is select board. I would like to hear more. I don't know.
Christie.
Check with Christie and find out would speak to it. It might be her.
Yeah.
Or it might be the senior center or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. She would.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that we need somebody there.
So 3 is fiscal 26 budget adjustments for various departments.
So that
So this is from.
Christie, I
Yeah,
would think.
Left pocket, right pocket.
correct.
Kind of
And it
thing.
is moving from council on aging to finance and health department.
Yeah, I think if she comes, she could at least
Yeah.
explain
Yeah.
Yeah.
why we have extra money here and why we need extra money there, or something like that.
Yep.
Right.
So are these the actual, so I thought this was just placeholder.
And also, they don't have amounts yet.
There is no
So we
amount,
can't
right,
vote
yeah.
anyway.
So we wouldn't vote anyway,
Yeah.
but I think we.
No, I understand, but I didn't, are there like a bunch of them, or is it just these two, or?
Right now,
Oh,
they're
I
just
assumed
two.
these were the actual transfers, we just
They
didn't
are.
have dollar
Okay.
amounts
Yeah.
yet,
Okay.
but that's a good
That would be my
question.
assumption, and that there might be others by the time we go
Yeah.
to close the warrant.
Right, so Article 4, we wanted to learn more.
Yep.
Article 5 is the
We-
special education reserve,
I think we're just sort
so
of waiting.
we'll hold
to-
on the amount.
Yeah.
Yep.
Six is brand new.
Yeah, brand
So we
new.
certainly have to
Yeah,
hear
so
about
6
that.
is the,
And they don't have a
V-Wall.
proposed, and I don't know if it's the active transportation committee or it's the select board.
I'll ask Christie on that one
Yeah,
too.
because we certainly want to hear about this.
And it's an exact number, like 61,000.
That's because they're applying for a grant and that would be the matching amount.
yeah.
So they probably know that. They don't know if they get the grant or not, I think is
Oh,
the
got it.
case.
Oh, okay.
All right, so swimming pool and pool pack, we're waiting
Definitely.
on the amount. I assume we're gonna wanna hear from rec, or do we think we've heard enough in spring?
Well, I think we definitely should do it again, because the original was voted down and they had to go rebid, so I think there's a room for
Do we
conversation.
want rec and DPW? Cause it's Public Works is the HVAC,
think
or do
you-
we just want rec?
I think you could start with rec, and if she wants to bring it.
I
I
can
don't know,
ask
do we
Jen
have a
if-
lot of
yeah.
air conditioning questions or
I-
HVAC questions? I don't-
Yeah, if you wanna ask.
I'll
Jen.
ask Jen, yeah.
I think if you think the pool is justified, then you need the HVAC, and if you don't,
Right.
right.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Oh, and Rod would probably have some questions specific to the but I don't think any of us would.
I'm not going to
What is the
have
pool
detailed-
pack? What is a pool pack?
So it is the HVAC system specific to the pool area, right? So it is
Oh.
different than a
Right.
normal room.
And I believe it may also warm the pool water. Or
Oh, is
temper
it?
the pool water too, not just the space, I believe.
Like, if you've been to an indoor pool, they tend to get very humid and
Yeah.
moldy. And so they need special systems
Yeah, that's
to keep the mold down.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's one way to sell it.
Sorry.
Come join our sweaty,
ultimate-
moldy pool.
And
Our
thi-
not
and this
sweaty
was
moldy
the-
pool because we're getting a pool pack, Andrew.
And this one couldn't be in the other grant one that we previously
Correct.
voted, right? Because they don't qualify.
Yep.
Yeah. Separated out.
All right, Article 8 is transferring funds from Westborough Spirit Committee gift account to the 250th American Revolution Anniversary gift account for the purpose of funding Westborough's celebration of this anniversary.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward. The committee, the new committee wouldn't exist yet.
So it does look like it's
So, I mean,
select
if
board we
anybody,
wanted.
Christie could speak to it, but.
Alright.
So there was leftover money. My wife was on our 300th anniversary committee.
Well, yeah, looks like it, right?
And so it makes sense to spend maybe something like on this.
So I know these are wildly incomparable numbers, but we budget 5,000 for our annual event. We apparently made X dollars for our 300th, so much so that we had 32,000 left over. So
But it was a gift.
People
Was it?
made donations,
okay.
so that's probably where the extra money came from. Or
Yeah, but
somebody-
even then,
That's a good point.
the 4th of July is significantly higher than the 5. That's seed money for other people to match. So 32 just strikes me as a very large number
Yeah,
to
it
be
was.
left over from whatever we did.
Yeah, the parade paid for UMass to come here, all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of events that year.
Okay.
So ask Christie.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, transfer to the Portable Housing Trust. So this
So-
is just the Pulte money.
Yeah.
They're coming Thursday,
Oh, yep.
next Thursday. The one remaining one is, in the past, we've sometimes not bothered to have them come in for just this, but we have a lot of new members
Right.
here, so it's probably worth hearing
And they're coming in.
the story. And they're coming in. A little update on, they had 2 articles canceled. You want me to just throw that in now, why they're not coming? I mean, they canceled 2 of their other articles.
What are the 2 that were?
Okay, so it used to be Article 7, it was a transfer of a property, 22 Willow
Oh,
Street.
yeah.
And Alan said there was not sufficient information at this time to proceed with this at that time. And then the other one was Article 10, which was to amend general bylaws, which had to do with an affordable housing rental unit tax exemption program. And he basically said when in developing the draft rules and regulations, there were complexities and issues they wouldn't be able to resolve in town for fall town meeting, including concerns regarding potential impact on the tax levy. And so they're going to continue working on the program and bring it back at the annual town meeting is their expectation. So we had invited him in at the time because we had 3 articles to deal with, but now we're done.
Okay.
Now there's the more obvious one, but
All right,
So they're
Article
here
10
Thursday.
is a home rule petition from the select board. So this is a number of signatures for an article for the annual town meeting.
so I attended that. There was a public meeting on it last night, actually right here. Pretty well attended, and I did speak briefly, noting I wasn't representing the AFC, or was I making judgment, just that I was in favor of them placing it on the warrant so that we could have a discussion on it. I would say generally the tenor of the audience was very much in favor of this, and there was a lot of discussion circling around exactly how many signatures, whether 50 or 100 is the right number, or other number that
So do we get the
some
sense that the
people-
select board might
I think
come
they're
back
going
with
to
a
put it
different
on.
number than the 50, or?
My sense is the motivation for 50 right now is one other town, Weston, had gotten that through the state. So it's a more safe number to show up with
Yeah.
because there's precedent. And then you could in the future decide, I really should be this number or that number or something. So I think, I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I feel very confident they're going to put something on the warrant now, whereas before they were maybe deciding. But whether it'll be 50 or 100, but I think we could wait to see what it is to vote it.
That was sort of my, do we think it's
Yeah.
probable enough it might
And-
change that we should wait, or do we want to have
I
that
don't
conversation?
think we need a whole lot of more information on it, but when Christie's here, we could discuss it.
Okay. So Article 11 is means-based exemption, Board of Assessors.
So we should have them here, which
Yeah.
in the past was John Steinberg.
Yeah.
Because
John will be
but
coming
he-
with Christie anyway, so Christie's
Yeah.
here next
Now, but
Thursday
we have a new
anyway.
assessor, so maybe there's someone else.
Yeah.
that can- But yeah, okay,
I can check with John.
yeah. But they should present that.
All right. 12 is roadway acceptance of Silver Hollow Estates, Public Works. Um,
I was under, from watching other meetings, that this was sort of, maybe if things got resolved, that there were some open issues.
Okay.
So I think we might
We'll wait.
want to wait. But we may want
easements.
somebody, I don't know, I mean, it's DPW just asked, but they don't, because it's met their
Right.
criteria, but the haggling seemed more to be like planning board or select board oriented stuff, so. I guess we can wait.
Yeah.
Can we still choose bird names? No? We stuck with the barred owl? Do I-
Barred owl, that's what we're getting. I'm gonna try and figure out how to get owls in my house to deal with the chipmunks.
Oh, that'd be good. Maybe you need something to
So if
deal with the
anybody
owls
knows
then.
how to get that, I feel like it's preferable.
Oh, good.
They're in my house. I mean, I don't want the owls in my house, just.
No, I
outside.
understand. I have chipmunks in my house too, because I have a Field Stuff Foundation.
Snakes. Yeah, good.
Easements for Harvey Building. So this is just the required easements for during the construction. We could ask someone to come speak to it. It is probably planning also.
Maybe. But Christie is on that committee that's doing
Oh,
this
that's a good
regional
point.
thing, so
Yeah,
whether she wanted.
Maybe she can,
I guess
I'll
just have the
ask her.
conversation with her.
I mean, because she's coming, I'll just ask her if she
Yeah.
wants to speak on all of the articles for us,
Right.
or.
Yeah.
Well, 14 is clearly a town planner.
Yep.
And you can tell by the number
quick
of
question.
pages, it doesn't include the addendum, which was another 25 pages beyond that.
All right, quick question. I have to drop at 8. Is there a vote that's going to happen, or can I participate if there is a vote to happen at the next meeting? Just trying to get familiar with the procedure. Unfortunately, I have to drop.
A vote for what?
To adjourn? It's a little premature.
We'll
No,
vote for
so
minutes and
adjournment.
I don't
adjournment.
think, I mean, we just went through the articles. I don't think there's any that we would want to vote on tonight.
Right.
I mean, at this point, you'll miss the vote on minutes, which,
And adjournment.
and adjournment, but that I think is what you're gonna miss. I would expect though, as we get closer to the meeting and we're really running out of time, we'll vote on several items next week, as well as the following week. I mean, I think we're gonna get into a cycle where we're gonna vote multiple articles sort of at each of the meetings for the sort of next several weeks. So,
Sounds good. Yeah, it's only this Thursday that I have to drop at 8, so we'll be good. All right then, thank you very much.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, looks like we're voting 0 things.
Is somebody talking to the board, the zoning, before they come in?
Yeah, who is our? Yeah, we have to set that up. I had this year before. It used, planning board used to be Prashant. Are you still the planning board, or did we assign someone else to that? I don't have the name list with me.
I think I only saw myself on the DPW.
Planning is,
I think it's
John
John.
had given a new job. I think we gave Josh
planning is
a lot.
Josh.
All right.
I wonder if we can ask as an additional page in the addendum. Well, they have a map of what the 2025 zoning map will be, and I think that's what the new one is. I'd love to see what the change is. Like reading through everything, it's much harder than if they had map A and map B. you
Yeah.
know? So I would find that a useful tool for to help us inform conversation. That's my suggestion.
I'd like to know if we're expected to print the addendum in the R&R. So maybe that's a Christie question or
I bet
something.
we
but
have to.
Don't have to, it's an addendum.
Okay,
but,
but it's part of what we're voting.
Or if it's part of the warrant. I don't know, it's a lot of pages.
Okay.
I don't, actually, I'm not sure
26
it'll be in the
pages,
warrant.
27 pages. I'm not really tilting the seesaw here that much.
Oh, no, not your
No, we
extra
mean
one.
the-
I'm
the
wondering about
entirety of
printing yeah, 'cause this is 10
Andrew
pages.
was like, wait, you can't afford my map? Like, that's where we draw the line?
No, your map would be fine. If we're gonna print any of it, we'd print all of it.
Exactly.
I just
Okay.
throwing that out there.
Okay. Approval of minutes. So we did not have the September 8th ones yet, but we did send out the August 21st. I think Josh sent them out last week and I resent them. Did we have any notes or corrections to those?
Nope.
I had one very minor one, so I'm perfectly happy to go with them as they were. It was something to do with, I had said I wanted to remain on the library building, and then it said, and the Affordable Housing Trust, but the Affordable Housing Trust is new to me, so it was more like, and I was interested in, but it's not a big swing.
But it should probably be corrected, but now I can't find it.
So should the motion include as amended, or?
But first, I'm gonna actually make the amendment to the notes to send to Laura, and then yes, that would be the appropriate motion.
So yes, that's amended.
Move to recommend that we vote to approve the meeting notes from August 21st as amended.
I'll second. Leslie, second.
No, it's Bradley. Sorry. Thank you.
Bradley first.
All those in favor? Oh, no, we have to roll call vote. We
Yeah.
still have one person on Zoom. We had one person left.
Yeah, I'm
and I
here.
got- I'm sorry.
And you're first, I think.
I would abstain. I wasn't present.
Oh, abstain.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Shimada abstain.
Clap yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
So how many do we have now? We got 6, 7 of us, and we had 2
Yeah.
abstentions.
502, I think.
502
Okay.
minutes.
It actually said building committee, not even library building committee, so probably.
That's okay. It was the other one, right after it said something about and.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, if I don't save it now, it's lost, guys.
Of course.
It'll be like this never happened, and
Won't be
So-
that insulted.
Do we have a calendar of the days we will have meetings? So when I talk to Jen, to see if I can schedule her, if there's, I want to make sure I pigeonhole her and do it, pigeonhole a day that we're going to be here.
we do have a calendar. I printed it on paper. I never print things on paper. So this month, the only thing we have is next Thursday and then the budget meeting on the 29th. And next Thursday, we already have 2 people, so it's probably looking at October, which really leaves us the 2nd or the 6th.
'Cause
So
on the-
not a ton of options.
We have to approve the R&R on the
Right.
9th.
So in theory, I mean, if she can't do 2nd or 6th, we could have her in and vote on the 9th, but it's approving the R&R on the 9th, so I would love to get her in earlier if we can.
October 2nd or 6th, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a Thursday and a Monday. Because we had the budget money meeting on 9/29.
Is something going to come out on that, by the way? The
Well, there'll be an agenda that's
Yeah, we'll have an
posted.
agenda. So it is last I heard, because the schools had a limited conflict, I think we were gonna start at 6:30. Normally those would start at 6, we're gonna start at 6:30 this time. I assume it'll be across the street. I would
Yes.
expect it to run a couple of hours. But yeah, we'll get an agenda. I would assume relatively soon.
Okay, and then you'll just distribute.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Liaison reports.
I got one. We did have our library building committee meeting this week. We moved them up a week because it's more in sync where we get the monthly report. Although it wasn't quite in sync yet, but they're working on it. Long on the short, the big picture is they're on track for a September 2026 occupancy. They haven't used up any of their slack time, or, you know, we haven't fallen behind yet in the first month. Good sign. There was some discussion that they had, basically because it looked like it didn't seem that busy on site, but there's some limit to how busy you can be there, because as I saw people working on those windows, you can only have so many of those lifty things in that little fenced-in area at the same time. So it's not like, but there is a lot of the clearing out had gone on the inside. Electrical's demo and abatement is done. So the look ahead in the next couple months is they're going to change the roof, demo and repair the roof, and install the interior wall studs and plaster working. So still going okay, and everything's, I'm hoping that we'll get better reporting as we kind of go, because this was the first month of it, and they kind of gave it to us right at the meeting. So all seems positive at this point.
Right.
And other question I had, since you are our liaison to finance, when you weren't here in the last meeting, we asked John about getting the 2025 report, and he said that Jane has it.
So he sent it to me on Monday, and then I was sick.
Yeah.
And then in my defense, my husband was in the hospital,
Right.
and my life is chaos.
Yeah,
and
no,
it's
I
totally in my
understand.
inbox, and I forgot to send it all to
No,
you, and I
I
apologize.
was just asking, man. I wasn't like, it was
But I
must
felt really
read
bad.
it,
As
but-
soon as you said that, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have that.
Yeah.
I'll send it
Okay.
to you. Apologies.
Yeah, so, because I think that would be good to look over.
So that
Yes.
would be the year-end actuals.
That's the fiscal 2025
Five, that's
actuals through.
Their fiscal
through
25 is not yet closed.
It is
No. So they are,
in September.
Isn't it like 45 days after?
no, so, I mean, it.
No,
was
last
slow
year, we got
close.
really close at Fall Town Meeting, because if it wasn't closed, we couldn't have used free cash for articles.
Interesting.
Because it's not certified until it's certified. It wasn't just
So
closing,
I
it
wa-
was getting
it-
it certified,
It
which you
might
had to close
be-
for.
Right. It might be that it's closed. I know their financials are not complete, right? They're not through audit. They won't finish audit for several more months, apparently. But I guess it is possible that the ledger is closed, right? So it is municipality, which means it's actuals. It's not accrual accounting.
just say-
meaning you can
yeah.
close when you're closed. So it might, either way, it's really close. I was
Yeah,
just
it's an
cautioning
estimated
that like it
actual.
might be. So the accountant to me needed to be really specific, Walter, with
That's okay.
whether it's closed or not.
So they'll have that with versus their budget, so we can kind of see, or versus the prior
Yeah.
year,
Yeah,
something comparative.
and did you, I think you've seen the report before, the only difference is it's for the full year
I'm
now.
not sure we've gotten one since Terry's been on the committee, so she may not have
I might have
seen.
sent you one
Oh.
when she was thinking
Okay.
about the committee.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, but
Okay.
there's no context behind that.
Yeah, but that
It's just
doesn't
a
mean
bunch of
anything,
Anyway,
then,
yes,
Walter.
not only are all the budgets, the lines there with their actual for the year, but there's things like town meeting articles and how much of that has been spent on
That I
each
remember.
one.
Yeah.
And then because we get the enterprise funds, there's things like water and sewer and those other funds too as well. So yeah, it's a treasure trove of information. It's almost too much, but it's good to look at.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
And it's an important step towards next year's budgeting, which we're just
Definitely.
hitting that cycle,
Right.
just to look what happened last year.
Right. Any other
No, I got a chance to meet Allison and Anita, as you know, and Sarah as well, so that was great. And we've
Yeah.
got some meetings set up for October as they start their process.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. They're pretty well organized.
All right, we sort of recapped our future meetings already.
So we would want rec either of those two dates too, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And the same with,
Rec
we
and
better
planning.
plan
So
it.
who's coming next Thursday?
So Thursday, it's Affordable Housing Trust and the town manager. I'm gonna reach out to her and see if for any of the sort of odd ones, if we need select board or if somebody else should speak to those. I'll reach out to Josh and let him know that we want the town planner to present in October and rec, and I'll probably just give them the same 2 dates, and if we
Well,
end up with
he's
them
rec.
both here on, I'm not reaching out to rec, I'm gonna tell Josh,
Yeah.
same dates we're
Oh,
giving
okay.
rec. If we end up with both on one night, we'll end
That's
up with both,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just,
So I think those are the only, oh, and then I'll ask John about do we want somebody else from the assessor, or does he wanna speak to that one? If he wants to do that Thursday while he's here, if not,
yeah,
I mean, really any of the days at this point, there's only 3 nights to choose from, really.
right.
So just
And, I mean,
one-
traditionally, Christie speaks for articles that say select board.
Right.
And if there's somebody special involved from her staff, that should get help as
Yeah.
Just one question. DPW has got 2 articles, even though it's recreation that we are getting for one of them. There's another one as well. So do we need DPW as well? Do I need to give a heads up, or next Thursday we will decide?
So and you guys can tell me if you disagree, I would say if Jen is comfortable speaking to the community center, I think we probably don't need Chris for that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could ask Jen,
But
right,
yeah.
if she, about the.
I think that's a
HVAC
question
thing,
for
yeah.
her. If she
Yeah.
wants us to ask Chris to come also, then we can. And then the other one is just the roadway acceptance.
Right.
And honestly, I don't know if anybody's gonna have roadway acceptance questions. I know every once in a while, there are some
Yeah.
questions in terms of, do we really want this road? We can ask Chris to come. I'll leave that one up to you guys, because I don't know that I have a strong
I watched
feeling.
some select board meeting or planning board, I don't know which, that this came up, and like I said, the controversy is nothing to do, they fulfilled the requirements of the
Right.
physical roadway and all this other stuff, so Chris brings it forward. Whether the people who moved in or neighbors are happy or whatever, that
And that was
and
the
that
issue
might
with
be
the
the
Zara way.
leverage, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether this one is all fine or good.
So if that is the question, do we want to hear from someone other than Chris? Because you're right, like, I'm not sure there's a lot of context
Or
Chris is
maybe,
gonna give.
maybe you could ask Chris, is there any controversy and who should we talk to about that?
That might make
And-
sense if you want to ask.
Sure.
But at
Chris.
least reach out and see if he wants, is there anything real to present or not?
Right.
Sure.
Chris is as
Might
good
as
as
well talk
anybody
to
to
him.
tell us who to talk to, I guess.
Yeah, probably knows,
Or if there's an issue.
yeah. Because my
Alright.
impression is if there's an issue, it might get yanked before
Right.
it happens anyway, so, or at town meeting.
Which I think actually happened with one
Yeah. I
last
think
fall,
so.
maybe? All right. I think that's all we got.
Move to adjourn.
We did the minutes. right?
Bradley?
Somebody has to second.
Oh, Leslie
Josh is
second.
Josh is in the meeting now. I can see him.
Josh has been there for a while. He's just logged in because he had to start the meeting. I don't think he's actually attending.
Oh.
All right.
He had a work conference.
I'm still here. I'm at a meeting.
Oh,
Sorry.
there was a motion to adjourn in a second and a Hooja yes.
Did
so-
patient, okay, sorry, Blumberg, yes,
Bradley,
sorry.
yes.
Clap yes.
Leslie, yes.
OJ, yes.
We are
Thank you, Mom.
adjourned.
Thank you, Westborough TV.
Thanks.
Sorry about that, my cat stepped on the